Well, we'll get started and be cognizant of your time. My name is Josh Cowton with K's Academy. This is one of our coaches, Ryan Hutchison, aka Hutch. This is Ben Diggle of Diggle's Diamonds. He does a lot of our recruiting stuff, which we'll get into. And then Todd Mitchell, who will be our coach for the head coach for the 2023 year, current head coach of the Renegades 14U Red Team, and Jimmy Peterson, one of our strength coaches as well, just graduated from Eureka. So that's kind of a snapshot of some of the coaches here. Number one, I want to thank you guys all for taking your time and checking it out. I guess the object of this is to be a little bit more, what is this thing all about? Yes, we all know what travel summer baseball is, or was, or might be. Why are we doing this? What's it going to look like? What does it mean? My goal is to try to give you as much information as possible so that you can leave here feeling like you got some of your questions answered. If you didn't get them answered and you don't feel comfortable asking them in front of everybody, hopefully you got my email. If you don't, I got my card up there. Feel free to email me after the fact, and if I get some some common ones, I'll send them out to the group or place them on my social media as well. But yeah, so the main goal of today is to kind of talk about the whole Rhino Ks. Why did we do it now? What's it going to look like? What does it include? Et cetera, et cetera. So the main deal, so like I said, we're only starting with one team at the 15U level for the 2023. If I've learned anything throughout this case thing is that if you grow too fast, it dilutes the quality of the product. And I don't want to be the one that's just going to go and see how many teams I can get. I envision this being 3 teams only for as long as I can mentally conceptualize. I think the KCL, the Colonel's Collegiate League, for those of you who don't know, is a great option for summer collegiate baseball, and especially for that 18U group that is maybe moving on to college. So they're seniors, because 18U travel baseball gets wonky where it's like, hey, I'm not playing, or hey, I want to shut it down and get healthy for my summer. And so now you end up with guys getting abused in the summer and they go into their college fall banged up, and that's the last thing we want. So, and then you have to like blend it with your 17Us, and it just, 18U baseball gets weird in my opinion. And so that's why the Colonel's Collegiate League is actually a really great option, especially as an 18U. So that's where a lot of our college-bound seniors, incoming freshmen are playing right now. Plus you get to play against other college players who are already in college, so you're playing against better competition versus other 17, 18-year-olds. And then they got the Corn Belters too, which is a prospect league. The difference for those that don't know, Colonel's Collegiate League is 4 teams that play in town. They never travel, so players can like go to school, get a job, that kind of stuff. It's fewer innings, so your arms aren't getting abused. The Corn Belters League is the prospect league, which is more like 6 to 7 days a week. You're traveling the buses and all that kind of stuff, so it's a little bit more minor league style, although minor league now is kind of different. Anyways, so my vision for this would be 15, 16, 17U only. We obviously have a really good partnership with the Renegades, who kind of got the 8 through 14U covered. Certainly am not trying to impose on that, and contrary to what some might think, my goal for this is not to, if we're just going to kick the elephant in the room right away locally, like my vision for this is not to compete with other local entities. My job is to work in conjunction with. My goal is to keep local baseball local. So I think, for a while people have left town, and for whatever reason that might be, whether it was valid or warranted, the fact of the matter is I think I counted there was 17 collegiate players in the senior 2022 class that are going to play college, and I think there's 2 that play locally. And for me, that's kind of like, why not? Like, what are we not providing these guys? And so every year I get asked to start my summer teams, and I'm like, no. He knows, no. So why this year? It was just kind of one of those things where everything was in place and it was too good not to. Obviously the new facility, if you haven't been here, welcome. If you didn't see the old one, it's a little bit different. And you can feel the difference for those of you who are in the old one that might be able to tell the temperature change. So the facility obviously makes it nice. We got a lot of space to do a lot of different things. We got the weight room in-house, and my goal and vision for this place was to be kind of like the one-stop shop for all things player development for baseball and softball. So we've got like the clubhousey area up there. where guys can play cards, chess, checkers, shoot. They've got TV up there. They can just mess around, but also we have a ton of recovery stuff up there, so guys can actually recover, whether it be via like icing mechanisms or like compression therapy, or we got Mark Pros up there and some other stuff. We got showers in the locker rooms, so guys, that was like a must-have for me, so we actually had to build those in. For those that aren't from here, this used to be a lumber yard, so we had to reshape some things, but we got showers in both, so guys in the mornings can come get their lift in and get their work in and get to school on time, assuming they actually get their work in expediently, and don't drag. But my vision for this is to make guys, the guys who are really committed, the guys who want to play college baseball and want the full like access to everything. What's it going to be like in college? What does it take to get there? What does it take to be successful? And if anybody, I know this is kind of new, but if anybody's aware what's happening with the transfer portal right now, college recruiting has never been more chaotic right now. And so we want to help navigate that process. And that's why the idea behind this was to collaborate rather than just like, we're the best of everything. Like, how can we pull in people who are the best at what they do? So we feel like from a player development skill standpoint, we feel like we have some pretty good staff from the strength training, from the skill development side. We feel like we got that covered with winter arm care, like you name it. But from a college recruiting standpoint, like, yeah, I can text up pretty much anybody in the Midwest, and I can probably get the number for somebody if I really wanted to connect with them. But I mean, that's like what Ben Diggle does. He was the recruiting coordinator for Central Illinois Outlaws for 12 years, 15 years. And so he's kind of separated and done, he's kind of going his own way now. He's kind of, he's taken individuals on, and he's kind of agreed to kind of be our right-hand man as an organization as we grow as well. But he's also taking people on individually that are not with our organization, but also cutting our players a huge deal. So just to kind of help navigate with the educational process, and he'll talk a little bit later about what that looks like at what level. 15U obviously is a little bit more educational. 16U is probably a little bit heavier into like making some connections. 17U obviously is like, let's get you committed and exposed and kind of go from there. And you know, from a long-term development standpoint, we think the 15U level is more for long-term development. Like, we don't want to pigeonhole guys into you can only play one position ever. You know, you have to throw 90 right now. We try to see the big picture of like 15U at the end of the day isn't like the end all to be all. So I think college recruiting, I mean, I don't know if I had a crystal ball. I would have to guess it's already cloudy. All signs point to, I don't know. But it's going to get wonky with the transfer portal. I think there was something like 2,500 players in the transfer portal. And it's crazy. I mean, for those that don't know, in the College World Series, Ole Miss and Oklahoma, they had 25 junior college transfers on their team. So, you know, the two best teams in college baseball this year were made up of almost half junior college players. So that's just a crazy stat out there for you as well. So I guess kind of going in through the packet a little bit. So the first one, not Ben's, I'll let Ben talk to his separately. But the first packet, how many packets am I short? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ruh-roh. All right, can you share for now, and I'll print some off. I'll print some off at the end. But the first one's obviously just a tryout. It's going to be July 12th at Illinois Wesleyan's Field. It'll be at 5 o'clock. Idea behind it will be kind of like a pro-style showcase where we'll run 60s. We'll get some tangible tools. Understand that we're not just flat out like looking at a radar gun and looking at a piece of paper like you have best number, you're on team. Like, there's more to baseball than just tangible. It's not like track where it's like, well, your form stinks, but you're the fastest, so I'm taking you. You know what I mean? It's a bigger picture. Like, how do you field? Can you play multiple positions? Especially at 15U, one of the things I will never, at least the way I envision it is, if we get to Sunday and we're out of pitching, like, I know this is going to turn some people off, but I would rather forfeit than throw somebody out there that hasn't pitched in 3 months and they go out there and they blow their arm out because they're not prepared and they haven't built up the workload. And I know that's not what we're trying to build, is like a forfeiting culture. But again, if I'm taking a step back and like, how important is this June 25th tournament for a kid who's 14 or just turned 15, young, and hasn't thrown a bullpen in 3 months, and we're going to ask him to go out there and throw 50 pitches so we can win. Like, I just don't think that's a good long-term strategy for health and what's best for the kid in the big picture. So, but at the end of the day, like, we're going to teach the game right. The last thing I want to do is, from a college coaching standpoint, the things I hear all the time are like, I can't take another showcase player. I can't have, like, I don't care that he throws hard. Can he throw strikes? Can he get out? Can he hold runners as a hitter? Can he put the barrel on the ball? Can he move runners? Can he play the game the right way? Is he unselfish? Is when he strikes out, if it's bases loaded and 1 out and he has a chance to be a hero and he punches out, is he the spike helmet and pout guy? Or does he get back in the dugout and he's the loudest cheer for the next guy up to win it for him? So, I mean, that's what I want to try to build, is playing the game the right way, but understanding that we understand that summer baseball is an exposure time, but also understanding that, like, we want to win as well, but win the right way, not so that it's not going to put you guys in jeopardy. So. So yeah, the packet, if you haven't signed up for the tryout yet, please do. We just started a new social media on Instagram and Twitter. It's Rhino KS, Rhino _ K's Academy is Twitter. I think it's the same. Yeah, I did that, so it'd be the same. Yeah. Rhino _ K's Academy on both. There'll be a direct link there. It's also on my website. There's, under the K's Academy website, K's Training Academy website, there's a tab that says Rhino Travel Program, and there's a link. So real quick, to speak to why Rhino. So full disclosure, the owner of Rhino Baseball is my college catcher. His name is Greg Blazing. I've known him obviously since 2002. Have a really good relationship. I know how he's built the program from the ground up. I know how they started. He started with a program called the Illinois Redbirds. They had fundamentally different views of what summer travel baseball should be. He broke off, and obviously it's worked out pretty well for him. They have a guy coming. We've been partnering a lot with a lot of things they do. They'll send their players down to me for some pitching. He was a catcher and hitter, obviously, but from a pitching perspective, a lot of times they'll refer to me, and we're even working on some things where we might go up and manage their arm care in the winter as well for the winter. But so that was one of the main reasons. I know him, I trust him. Why not just do it myself? Why not just do it K's team? The tournaments that matter, so to speak, the tournaments where the coaches are at, are becoming very exclusive, where you have to either bring multiple teams, X amount of teams, you have to qualify, you have to be invited to, you have to be affiliated with to even get into the tournaments that matter. And if we're going to be a all-inclusive exposure, high-level exposure program, we have to be in the tournaments that matter. Granted, I don't want us to travel 17 hours all over God's green earth, because the reality of the situation is 90% of our players are probably going to play in college in like a 4 to 5 hour bubble. I mean, that's the data. Sure, there's going to be a couple. One goes to Texas, one goes to Florida, but 90% of people are going to play local. So when I say local, 4 or 5 hour bubble. So, we don't have to travel to Georgia every week to get recruited to stay in that 4 hour bubble. And that's where relationships come about. How do we get college coaches at our tournaments? It's communications, exposure, it's personal relationships. Emailing out email blasts weekly of, hey, here's where we're at, here's who's pitching. Having lineups ahead of time so coaches can make their schedules. Putting it on Twitter on Friday doesn't help. That coach he already knows where he's going. So communicating early, having rosters on hand, and again, just all that little stuff that adds up and matters. So that's why we went with Rhino, is, from partnering with the experts in the field. The Rhino is definitely well known as probably one of the top 3 to 4 programs in the state of Illinois and probably most of Midwest. Their, I guess, prestige, their history, kind of gets them full access to pretty much whatever tournaments they want, which in turn is going to get us in tournaments we want. Obviously, we got to be able to put together a quality team. You can't go out there and get, track meted and that they're going to be like, hey, yeah, not that team. So, we're going to put together a team that's going to compete at any level. So, so those were kind of like the main reasons. And then just some of the systems in the back end. They have a lot of when you're starting from the ground up, there's just a lot of unknowns. And so they've been doing it for a while. I think they've probably close to 10 years. They just opened up a new 62,000 square foot dome in Romeoville. So we've talked about maybe kind of heading up there every once in a while. I mean, we don't really need to go anywhere, but just for maybe a change of scenery, that would be a partner. So that was kind of the background of why we became Rhino K's instead of just K's or partnering with anybody else regionally or locally. So that's the truth of the matter. So, all right, so the first page is the tryout. Yeah, so if you haven't done that yet, please do, so we kind of know where you're at. So the next 5 pages are just kind of an FAQ where we tried to roll through some of the common questions that you may or may not have based upon like what's this going to be, what's it going to look like. I'm going to cheat off yours. You're good. Cool. So the costs. So I actually talked about the costs on the first page. If you flip all the way, this is bad marketing. You're supposed to talk about the cost less. Value first, cost later. Whatever. It is what it is. The last page is the cost. So the first half is the way it's going to kind of work is it's kind of like 2 separate fees. Is basically you're paying travel fees just like you would to any other organization, but then obviously the training fees and coaching fees are all kind of separated out. So the first part is the Rhino, which is like just to play on the team, which includes your uniform expense. And of course the first year nobody has uniforms, right? So it's going to be a little bit higher. So subsequent years you would expect that to be lower, between 16, 17. You've got your tournament costs. Again, I threw that number out there. That's kind of a rough estimate of the tournaments that we want to play in, broken up. You got your set cost, and then obviously we'll divvy it out based on number of players. To the tournament piece, that's actually one thing that I think I would like to see more of is as we get into it, maybe even fewer tournaments and more like set up double headers where we can actually do them on like a nice field, like a Division I field somewhere. So the college coaches like it because they can stay home and recruit, where we kind of say, hey, let's go pull 2 or 3 of the best teams in the area at our age level. Let's all go play on their field, on their campus, tour their facilities. And for them, it's like bang for their buck, right? They just got 3 to 4 whole teams on their campus to see their facilities. It's like a mass recruiting visit for them. And from a college, they got families and wives too, right? So it's nice for them to sit and be at home and sleep in their own bed and actually see a lot of players. And it keeps our costs down because we're not paying whoever's running tournaments plus stay to play plus you got to pay to see your own kid to play. So that's kind of the tournament fees. Our anticipated head count of who we're going to keep in terms of numbers, we want to be around that 13 to 14 number. We're probably shading towards 14. It just kind of depends. We're never going to, I want to say never say never, but from a long-term development standpoint, I don't know that it makes good sense to force a kid to be a pitcher only at 15U unless he's like, hey, I'm a pitcher. I know I'm a pitcher only. It is what it is. I want to do it. For us, that would be great because the more arms, the better, because that's always travel ball conundrum of like carry too many players, safe arms, guys not getting ABs because they're two-way guys. Like, how do you balance it so that everybody's getting innings, right? So that factors into our decision-making process as well on the tryouts. Being able, like, we can only take so many position player onlys, right? If we took 8 of our position player onlys, or 8 of our 13 are position player onlys, like we only have 5 arms. Like, that's not going to work. So those things factor in where we probably need. depends, but again, probably 9 arms that can chew up innings. So again, when we're selecting teams, those are things that factor in. If he's like, yeah, I'm a pitcher only, or I'm a position player only, I only play this one position and I don't pitch. At that a certain point, we gotta make, maybe he's slightly better than player A is maybe slightly better than player B, but player B can also play another position and pitch. So it's a big picture thing. So on terms of the fees, so yeah, we've got the uniform fees. We are going to pay Rhino a little bit. They were very, very generous in helping us get started. You know, $100 player fee is pretty cheap for what they're providing. They're providing the umbrella, a lot of the marketing, a lot of the access. They're doing a lot of the background work. For point of reference, I got asked to start my own teams with a very, very large organization, shall go unnamed. That was 4 years ago, and they wanted $350 a person. So I would assume it's probably more now. And so for him to be 100, it was obviously nice of him. So, huh? I was just ballparking it. Just ballparking it. So coach fees. Generally speaking, the Rhino model, again, everything's kind of open book. Nothing here to hide. For the most part, they pay $6,000 to their coaching staff. Coach Todd has generously offered to coach for free. And then obviously we're going to pay our assistants as well. So that's going to cut your costs down as well. Again, another elephant in the room, Todd is a parent of a player. That's always a thing, like, oh my gosh, Todd, parent. For those that don't know Todd, that he won't say it, Todd was a shortstop at Illinois State and played for the New York Yankees in the minor leagues. So he's not like another dad, so to speak, no offense, Dad. But it's a guy with like obviously some baseball acumen. Like he played in the professional baseball for the Yankees. So very confident in his ability to teach the game. Obviously, we'll be leading a lot of the off-season stuff. When I say a lot, I mean all. The things that like Todd and Hutch will be running is a lot of like the team practice stuff, and then obviously on the road, actually coaching the games, writing the lineups, that type of stuff. So I'm trying to think of other uncomfortable, awkward situations I can bring up. Is that good? Okay. Tournaments. So obviously the tournament fees will be broken up based on the number of players we have. I put 13 on there as a rubric, but we have more players. It makes it cheaper per player. No big deal. You're here. We're all here for you. He's like, what? I'm just kidding. He's back there. Player only. So if we do have a player only or a player only, pitcher only, it will be cheaper for that person. Again, kind of the number I have out there is like $200 cheaper. But you know, we can figure it out based on how many. If I have 800 and we end up getting 14 players and that makes it cheaper, I'm not going to keep the pitcher only at 800. It'll probably drop down a percentage based off. So my thought was 20% off of whatever everybody else is paying if you're a two-way guy, or a position player, I should say. So that's going to be the Rhino fees, affiliate fees. That's kind of everything up front. The bottom half is kind of like the training fees, and so if you look on the left, like the regular rates, so basically whatever, if you were to just come in, if you're not on the team and you're getting all of the services that players on this team are getting, those are the rates of what it would be. But if you're on our team, that obviously if you look to the right, that's what the rates are away. So the facility fee to be a member of K's, we cut that in half. Strength conditioning, we discounted down. Arm care, we knocked off $300 off of. Video analyses, data reports, pitch AI, all of the technology package stuff is going to just kind of be part of the package. It's no extra charge, just kind of part of being part of the family. Off season, so again, we got the recruiting assistance. So that's all going to be Ben Diggle. Obviously, we're going to help with that, but any part of that, anything that Todd, Hutch, myself, anything that we do, that's just kind of like part of the membership fee, part of the coaching fee, that just comes with it. Ben has got a completely whole different animal in his services, and so I think Ben, let me finish up with here, and then I'll let you kind of roll through what you've done and what you do and game plan. Again, kind of classroom sessions where we talk about more education, whether that be what does it mean Like, how many scholarships does a Division I player or does Division I school get if they're fully funded? Is the right answer. 11.7 if they're fully funded. How many about D2? Coach? 8. So again, a lot of these things of what does it mean to be D1? What does it mean to D2? What is D1? Did you guys even know that there's 3 classes of junior college? D1, D2, 3. So all of that kind of education stuff is all part of the package. And then you've got the small group training sessions. So that is kind of what the format of like what does the off season look like. So off season will be 4 days a week of strength and agility training, 1 day a week of winter arm care. Even if you're not a pitcher, you're still doing it. You just don't do bullpens instead. You do more position player throws. That's where we teach you how to prepare to throw, how to take care of your arm, how to move more efficiently, how to increase velo. And then we do small group training. So we'll do like 1.5-hour sessions where half of it is fielding, half of it is hitting. And we'll break you up generally by position. So one day you'll be like, all right, all infielders. You got 6 or 7 of you, 3 of you 4 go hit with Coach Hutch. The other 3, 4 of you go work with one of our infield coaches. We flip for 45. Catchers and outfielders, you guys are paired up. So for the most part, that's how it's going to look, and likely with like a team practice on Sundays, starting generally like we don't have hard dates, but probably after Thanksgiving, early December-ish, all the way up through obviously high school ball usually starts the last week of February, first week of March. Obviously off for like holidays and stuff like that. So that's kind of what the training packages would look like. It's again, my goal for this is to say, hey, when you walk into campus as a college freshman, you're like, yeah, I got this. Time management, no problem. I know what it means to get up at 5:30 in the morning and go be lift by 6 and have food in my stomach before I go lift. I know what it means to shower, get to class on time. I know what it means to have to lift or get my team practice in after school, and I still got to get good grades because I am what's PSA mean? Not public service announcement. I'm wearing you out today. PSA. PSA. Huh? Ooh, close. Prospective student athlete. Student athlete. Student, then athlete, right? Because the data is there's 150,000-ish, and you probably have better data, but I think the podcast I heard was like about 150,000 high school baseball players for about 1,500 or 15,000 roster spots. I think that's it.
There's a 500,000 high school baseball players a year.
500,000. Okay. Samsonite. See?
So figure, divide that out
Okay.
by 4.
Okay. On that note, since I'm wrong, come on in. Moral story is there's a lot of high school baseball players and not a lot of college roster spots, and there's even fewer professional spots. So at the end of the day, we're all going to end up doing something professionally outside of baseball. So student athlete. So my point is like time management, being able to walk onto a college campus, because those are the questions we get. Like we don't get questions like how fast is he, how hard can he throw? Like they have eyeballs, like they can see that stuff. They ask like, what kind of kid is he? Is he a yes or no sir? Is he on time? Is he a mess? What are his grades like? Like is he a grown up or is he gonna like crawl in a hole when I yell at him? So these are the questions we get. So I'll let you kind of take over what your package looks like for the 15U, and then if you can just like touch on 16, 17 and stuff like that.
All right. Well, first off, folks, thanks for coming out tonight. Just as Josh was trying to point out, Todd's humble refusal to talk about his background. Josh also has a tremendous background. This is why I'm here. Because I wanted to work with this guy. I wanted to work with a guy that had a vision, not only for travel baseball, but for this, and who believed in developing players. Because I'm a firm believer that we have figured out the science to throwing a baseball harder and hitting a baseball harder. I really believe that in my heart. And this guy has part of that unlocked. So this is when he says all in, it's going to be all in, but if you do it right, it'll pay off. All right. As the recruiting aspect, as Josh alluded to, For you at the 15U level, it's pretty simple. We're here to educate, all right? You're just getting into this process. You know, we've talked, there might be one or two that, you know, blow up and need a little bit more. If some of these guys start recruiting insanely early. We're going to provide education. We're going to talk about what you should be doing, first and foremost, in the classroom. I can't stress that enough. That is a very big deal. I always tell folks, one of my best players that I ever had was a kid named Mccoy. Mason was a heck of a ball player. He was a two-time All-American for me at ICC, and got a lot of money to go to the University of Iowa. He ended up paying $0 because he was also a 3.8 nursing student. And so he got his entire tuition covered by athletic and academic money. And then on top of that, he got Pell money, which meant he got a $6,000 check each semester. Now you can talk about what he blew it on, which was a scooter because he was getting parking tickets, and a aquarium, but here nor there. Either way, he was making money while he was in school. And that's the important part. It also, believe it or not, it factors into your grades. I just told a kid who applied for my program this week, I can't do anything to help you. You've got a 2.25 GPA. You would be wasting your money if you signed up with me because I will not be able to help you. I'll be honest, guys, I teach high school. If you've looked at my bio, high school is easier than ever. There's no reason to struggle in high school. Show up, do the work, sit in the front row, and that'll be the same instructions you get in college. Turn it in on time, and you'll be good. All right? You want to be a 3.5 or better, that gets you academic money. Get around a 3, it's a little dicey, depends on the school you're going to. But the first and foremost, like Josh said, is student. The athlete part of it, we're going to set you up so that you know what you have to do to start the process. All right? Like we said, 15U, that's a lot of education. How to contact schools. What should you be looking at with schools? We want to put you on college campuses. Far too many baseball players don't get out and see college baseball games and have no idea what a D1 looks like versus a D2 versus a D3 at both the NCAA level and the NJCA level. You know, I mean, Josh can tell you what we saw when we were junior college coaches. You'd see probably most of the MLB organizations threw them MWAC at one time or another.
Yeah,
in a given season.
I mean, we had as many pro scouts at our place than as any other Division I in the area.
100%,
So it just depends on the year.
You know, Josh and I were trading notes on a podcast we listened to the other day with Walter Beta, whose son is with the Pirates now and has kind of made a name for himself as a guy who helps people through this process along with Eric Cressy. He said kids have to feel the game. They have to understand what it looks like up close. So that's going to be our goal, is so that you guys know what you're getting into.
Some social media guidance will probably be part of that package.
Absolutely.
Some social media education.
Huge.
Let me see your Twitter right now. He says, "Oh,
Changing my name." But anyway, yeah, social media guidance, and then how to start contacting coaches. That's a lost art. You know, we want to prepare you to actually have conversations with these guys. I get talk to coaches all the time. They're like, he grunted at me for a solid 5 minutes. I think it went well. We want to actually have conversations. You know, they want to get to know you, because the better they get to know you, the quicker they can make that decision and pull that trigger on an offer. All right?
There will be a social media code of conduct contract as well as part of this deal. So we will have all of your social media profile handles. If you think you can go rogue and like create a whole new profile and it's going to be funny and we won't find out, I mean, you guys know, like, everybody knows everything. So we'll find out and we'll address it. So there will be code of conducts on field, off field, and social media as well. And you will have to follow us, and that way we can be friends all the time.
And that just makes it easier when you're going to tag people and stuff like that. It pops up right away too. So the 15U year is going to be an educational piece. That's why I've discounted it so heavily compared to other folks, to what my normal clients pay. As we get into the 16U and 17U, once you hit that 16U summer, June 1st, after your sophomore year of high school, you are now in the window, in my opinion. For the higher end player, that means they're looking to commit maybe by November of that year. You know, if you're, you know, Wyatt Mammon, one of Josh's kids that I just took on as a client, you know, has been up to what, 91?
90 point, not 91. Don't give it to him.
Okay.
It was like 90.6.
90 and rounding, all right? But
not 91.
You know, that's a kid that you can commit early. But some of you might take a little longer. That's okay. You know, I always tell the story of Justin Parr. Justin was the runt of a three-brother litter, all of whom ended up drafted. But when Justin was a high school senior, he was 5'11", 150 pounds. He ended up 6'3", 215 pounds by the time he left the University of Illinois as a Big Ten Player of the Year and an 8th-round draft pick of the Phillies. So some people just develop quicker. We can't help the biology, but we can help you train to be a better ball player. And so as we get into those 16U and 17U levels, there'll be more focus on video, more focus on reaching out to colleges, starting that process of really, you know, honing in, hey, what's my level? And I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell you what I think. Doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean I'm wrong, but you know, there's just certain things you gotta be able to do at different levels. So.
Appreciate you. It's good. Thank you. So you can see what he charges on his like fee schedule. Did you put your actual rates on that one, or was that one, is the sheet just for us, Diggs?
That's just for you.
All right. So on that little spreadsheet, the cost fee matrix on the very back one that has everything, his rough schedule fee, if you look at like on the what it would be paying all the cart, like in that first row where it says actual cost, you can kind of see what he's going to do with us. Like if you're not on the team and you choose to do everything that we're doing on this team, what his fee would be per player. So that first year would be $500, and then obviously it goes up more because it gets more involved as 16, as 17. So I did want to talk about one thing. One of the common questions I got. So yes, this is going to be all in. What does that mean, all in? And specifically to like the strength and conditioning piece, because that's the one that kind of comes into play, right? Because it's like I play other sports, I do other things. So really what that means to me, all in, is it means if you are within driving distance of whatever you deem reasonable driving distance to come here 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week, obviously we have everything in-house for you. If you are farther than that and it's not feasible, we have everything built out from a remote training standpoint. We currently have about 55 remote, depends on the day or week. Some people are transitioning into their college stuff, so we lost a few, gained a few. Around 50 to 60 remote athletes that we currently train. So obviously, as a part of this, you would basically get everything remotely. We would definitely want you to come for arm care. Ideally, if you're here now, that means to me you probably live within close enough driving distance to come at least once or twice a week. In terms of the strength conditioning, that's the one that's tough because it's like 4 or 5 days a week. If you're in another sport, like football or something like that, and you have to do that lifting, cool. If you got a coach that's like, yeah, I understand that you play baseball and I'll let you modify some stuff, great. I've never met that coach that coaches football that says you can do not my lifting, but maybe he exists. If you're in other sports, I just want to make sure that you're continuing to lift throughout the year. It doesn't have to be, it can be modified. You know, we're not going to, if you're in basketball, we're not going to give you the same 4-day-a-week lift that we're doing because you guys are running 17 line drills a day. So it depends on where you're at, and we can kind of meet you in the middle on an individual basis. What it really means is that you're not going to strength train. If you're not in a sport, you're training with us. That's pretty much what that means. So you're not lifting somewhere else in town, you're not lifting somewhere else back home, you're training with us. You can lift at obviously at another gym somewhere, but you're doing our program and you're working through our coaches for that. So that's kind of what the strength training piece means. I put the full price on there just in context. If you end up not doing the whole thing, or like you're like, well, football these months I'm out, we'll obviously adjust down on a prorated cost basis. So does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion or questions about that? Great. So I'm gonna steal you again. I'm just gonna pick on you the whole time.
No worries.
All right. Oh, one thing on the tryouts, 2 positions only. I said I want multiple positions, but I don't need first base, shortstop, catcher, left field, right field, pitcher, left. You can do 2 positions plus pitcher. So, and that should be pretty easy because we just lump all of our infielders together anyway. So you're either a catcher, you're an infielder, you're a first baseman, or an outfielder. There's 4 options. You get to pick 2. So costs we kind of covered in pretty well depth. Selecting the teams. So there's going to be a decent committee panel, I think, that you guys will be, at least I think, kind of agree that it's pretty good. So it's not going to be just me. It's not going to be one person picking the teams. You know, Todd obviously will have some input as well as the head coach. But for the most part, you know, we'll kind of convene. Hutch, Todd, and I will get together. But also Jeff Stewart. For those who don't know, he's actually the coach that recruited me to Illinois State. I trained his son, Brock, who was in the big leagues for a while, and he's rehabbing right now. He was a San Diego Padres area scout for a long time, and then he just retired as a Tampa Bay Rays pro scout for like 8 to 10 years. So he's seen some baseball, Division I baseball. He coached for over a decade and has been a amateur and professional scout for like 20 more. So I think he knows. And then Dave Seifert. So we are pretty lucky. PBR, if you don't know who that is, I assume everybody knows, Prep Baseball Report. D1 Baseball, they formed a position. Dave Seifert was head coach at Parkland. We won't hold that against him. Pitching coach at Evansville. He played at Illinois, left-handed pitcher. And then he was a Phillies cross-checker, which means he's like the area scouts. He would come make sure that he agreed with what they saw. He did that for like 9 years. And now he's the national director of scouting for D1 baseball and PBR, which means his job is basically to see the top 150 to 200 players in the country and rate them and evaluate them and do write-ups and drafts. So again, like that's what his job is to evaluate players. So those guys, along with a Rhino affiliate, a Rhino representative, probably Greg Blazing, and then myself. So that is who is selecting the teams. So pretty unbiased and pretty experienced, I feel like. So hopefully that is some context in terms of how we're going to select them. Again, some of it's going to have to do with like, all right, player A and B are neck and neck. Maybe one pitches, one doesn't. One does this well, one does this better. Do we know anything about the kid in terms of character and work ethic and grades? Like, again, the idea is to like be college recruitable, right? Tournaments. Everybody wants to know what tournaments. You talk about tournaments. That's great. So if you turn to this page, it's kind of bolded here. These are the tournaments that we anticipate going to. So you can see they're not crazy far away. You've got like Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa. Again, kind of staying in our bubble with one longer trip kind of planned out. So that's kind of the game plan. Again, it's not set in stone for 2023 yet. But that would be a sample schedule kind of the tournaments that we have picked out. That's kind of what Rhino's top 15U team in this year is playing in. Talking to a lot of my college coach buddies, those are the tournaments that they're going to be at. Again, that's kind of how we picked them. It's like, who cares where the tournament's at? What schools are there? Are there schools there? Yes or no? And obviously good competition. Can we get in? Does it make sense financially, regionally, all that kind of stuff?
Can I drop something in the real quick?
Yeah.
Folks, I get it. You might not be excited about not going to Georgia or not going to Nashville or Myrtle Beach, all those different places you can travel to. Here's what I'll tell you. I did this for 15 years at the travel level. I did it for 10 years at the JUCO level. I had 2 players recruited by SEC or ACC schools. You have to be stupid. And the one kid that did it got hurt, ended up at Illinois, and then got drafted. Now he's in Iowa with the Mets. But it's like Josh said, high likelihood you're going to end up about 4 or 5 hours from home. So that's the thinking behind this.
We kind of already talked about who's running the team, practices, we talked about that, speed and agility, we talked about that. recruiting process, we talked about that. Okay. What am I forgetting? Questions? Somebody's got to ask the first one. I'm picking on you all day. You got to ask me a question. We're all staring at you. You're on camera.
Come on, Martin.
Everybody's waiting. Do we offer barber shop haircuts? The answer is no.
I can make that happen.
The only rule is your hat has to stay on when you pitch. That's it.
Martin, you're going to have trouble.
You owe us a burpee for every time your hat falls off every pitch. I got fined $1 for every pitch my finger was out of my glove in my first pro start, and they didn't tell me until after. I owed them $111. Would have been useful to know. Pitch 2. That's fine. It's like an eighth of my paycheck. If you don't want to ask, that's fine. I'm sure you'll probably think of some on the way home. Please shoot me an email. If you don't already, follow us on Twitter and or Instagram for updates. Again, it's Rhino_K's Academy, KS Academy, for updates. Again, if you haven't signed up for the tryout yet, please do. I think we'll probably end up cutting it off at some point because, I mean, if we get like 100 people out there, it's going to be brutal. I've watched 6-hour tryouts, and I would rather stab myself in the eyeball. So I think we are at like 32 are signed up. I really don't want more than like 45 tops. Just it'll be a long night. Because we want to give everybody fair shake, fair at bats, and we don't want to cut anybody short. And if we're getting everybody fair shake for 45 rounds of BP, it's a lot. Yes, I know, I will.
After the tryouts, do you expect to announce?
Yeah, good question. I should talk about that. So kind of the expectation is, I hate it, but what happens is it's kind of like college recruiting. It's if you come to ours and we're like, well, I'm really hoping I go over here, but I'm going to use them as a backup plan. And then so we offer to you, and you're like, well, maybe let me see. And by the time you decide, oh, I did make Team A, if we're Team B and you go to Team A next week, and now we missed out on the other player, now we're down to we're getting down, now other players are taking others' jobs. So for the most part, we anticipate being in communication with you within the first 24 hours of the tryout. And we probably will secure a partial payment, non-refundable security deposit. In terms of everything else and on the payment stuff, what we'll do is we'll figure it out in terms of what you see. And again, if you say, hey, I think I'm going to do football and baseball and basketball, and so what does the lifting look like? And then you're like, I'm not going to do basketball, then we can obviously change it from there. But we'll put a card on file, and it'll just be monthly. So from a budgeting standpoint, it's not all at once. And not big bulk payments. So that's probably best from that standpoint. So yeah, to your point, how long after? We'll be in touch within, if not less than 24 hours. And we do kind of want an answer pretty much right away. So I know that stinks. I hate it, but I don't know what else to do because I've seen it go the other way where they tried to be nice guys, and then you end up with now you've got 9 players and you're short 5 pitchers, and you can't go into a season short. So the idea is that hopefully this is your first choice, and if you make it, you'll say yes. So, good question. I forgot about that. Thank you. Yes?
Do you anticipate doing anything in the fall? Any tournaments?
Definitely not this year for sure. In terms of next year, even probably not in the fall. If it's a situation where maybe somebody gets hurt in the spring and they just missed out on a lot of reps, what we'll try to do is probably connect you with a team that is going to travel in the fall, because Rhino as an organization does that. So again, being part of a larger organization allows opportunities for stuff like that. Even on the national scene, sometimes they'll pull together. So we have a player right now that's in LSU that's competing for Team Illinois on a national level, 2 players actually. And they have 3 or 4 of their players. So they pool the best players from all the organizations and go down and do an all-star elite national travel select. What other buzzwords am I missing?
Super Gold Select.
Yes, that one. So, but yes, we don't anticipate doing anything in the fall right now, but it might change, but probably not.
Yeah, with all these guys being incoming freshmen to high school, and football or another sport, it's probably best to let them get acclimated. Even if we decided to do something like that, it would be numbers-wise very difficult because we do anticipate quite a few of our players having another sport to do.
Yeah.
You know, Josh touched on it a little bit. We don't want necessarily all of our guys or any of them to be baseball only. Get out there, play other sports, do other things. There's a lot of different ways to become an athlete. By playing basketball or football or whatever else, it ultimately helps you here with baseball. So.
Yeah, so my people always ask, like, what sport should I play? How many until I should be baseball only? The answer is always, it's a cop-out. It depends. If you're God's gift to baseball and you can just wake up and throw 93, then play all the sports you want because great job. If you're like most of us, and like he spoke to a little bit, like I graduated high school, I'm from Iowa, so I played 4 sports because we don't start baseball until the summer in Iowa because we're smart. It's fine. So I played all 4 sports, super small school, town of 5,000. You know, one of the reasons I do what I do is if I grew up right now, if I was sitting in your shoes, I would have never played college baseball and I would have never played professional baseball and I wouldn't be staying here today. I graduated as a senior in high school at 6'3", 165, and I was like 81, 83, maybe touching a 4 if I was lucky. I mean, I have literally 8th graders that throw that. So, I mean, I graduated high school. I walked on to a JUCO. One of the reasons I have a chess table up there is because during high school, I would actually play my psychology teacher in chess during recess and whoop up on him. He also happened to be my pitching coach at my community college. So I walked on to a community college. I put on 50 pounds and 13 miles an hour in college when I focused just on baseball, got in the weight room. Yeah, might not look like it, but I did put on 50 pounds. I still got it, just not it. But my point is, like, I don't want people to get missed. And so when I look at who we're going to take, there is part of me that's like looking for the next me of like, who's the guy that will eventually, if he had resources, if he had access, if he worked at it, maybe isn't who he is now, like a McCade Brown. Do you guys know that name? Come on, man. McCade Brown. So he came to us as a sophomore, Normal West. He was 74, 76 his sophomore fall. But 6'4", easy arm. Mom is in the ISU Volleyball Hall of Fame, Illinois Wesleyan volleyball head coach. Dad played football, large human. It just looked the part, but he just hadn't hit his stride. Played soccer, played basketball, played baseball. So he's going, he's doing all these cardiovascular sports, which is great. Super good athlete, but he just hadn't hit it. Well, he graduated high school throwing 93, third rounder with the Rockies, and he's touching 96, 97 right now, playing for the Fresno Grizzlies if you want to follow him. So again, like he's a sophomore throwing 74. I would venture to guess more than half of you guys here probably throw harder than that right now in 8th grade. And he's 6'5", like what the heck? So again, it's not just always about who you are right now, it's like projectability, what do we see long term for you? So good question. I rambled, as usual. Anybody else? Well, I will let you guys get back to your Monday night. Again, feel free to email me. We'll be emailing out some updates as we get closer, just with like instructions and follow-up questions if I get multiple questions from that way. So, well, thanks again for coming. Appreciate your time. Drive safe, and we look forward to seeing you July 12th.